Okay, we're talking to Dr. Timothy Leary, who you really should know about. For those who lived through the 60s, and most of us did, this man was extremely important, and that's why you're here, because you were so associated with the drug culture. Let me also refresh your memory. 9 years ago, Art Linkletter's 21-year-old daughter, or rather 20-year-old daughter, Diane, took a fatal 6-story plunge to her death. You leaving, Dr. Leary? Why are you leaving? Why are you leaving? Seriously, you're not leaving. I want you to sit right here. I want you to sit down. You're not leaving. I want you to sit down.
I'm under arrest.
Oh, you're not under arrest. I want you to sit down. Art, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Art? Art Linkletter?
Art, are you there?
I want you to stay for a while. I want you to stay. I'm not sandbagging, but I want you to come to this in an intelligent way and not be funny. You're 60 years old, a grown man. Please sit down here. No one leaves this show. They answer the questions. Art Linkletter, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Art? Art Linkletter is in Columbus, Ohio. And I apologize, we're apparently having some phone problems. His 20-year-old daughter, as you know, plunged to her death, jumped out of a window. He claims that people who manufactured and sold LSD were responsible for her death. Do you think that's true?
Well, later understood, he admitted that she hadn't had LSD for several months before that. Now, the relationship between Art Linkletter and his daughter, or the relationship between Art Linkletter, who's made a living for 20 or 30 years making fun of kids, you know, things that happened 10 years ago.
Dr. Leary, do you see any relationship between her death caused by now, do you think that LSD was a part of her death, the fact that she committed suicide?
How does anyone know? I would say the chances are 1,000 to 1 no.
So
but Art certainly made a lot of money and got on a lot of shows. He got himself into the Nixon White House.
How many?
Riding on the death of his daughter.
Dr. Leary, how many?
And I think that's ghoulish.
How many LSD
ghoulish
trips?
for people like Carol Burnett, whose ratings are going down.
Let me ask
Carol
you this
Burnett
question. Do we have a phone call?
her daughter.
Art, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm sorry we have technical problems. Dr. Timothy Leary is here. Let me ask you this question. I know that Diane died in 1970. What part did LSD play in this, in your judgment?
It played a very vital part, and it caused her to become bewildered and agonized about life and take her own life. And in
Art, I think it was you that caused her.
Wait a minute. Dr. Leary.
Your hypocrisy.
All right, no, wait a minute.
And you're riding it. You got to the Nixon White House, didn't you? Because you became on the basis of his daughter's death.
No, wait a minute.
He rides
That's an outrage, Tim.
That's ghoulish.
Oh, stop. I will throw you off the show if you don't listen to these questions from me. Art, let me ask you this.
I know.
Art Linkletter?
Yes.
I apologize to you.
Would you take the microphone away from that idiot and let me talk for a minute?
Yes, I will. Go ahead, Art. Tell us what you want to say.
In subsequent investigations following her death, I have absolute definite proof that Diane had mentioned Dr. Leary as one of the reasons why she thought that there was nothing wrong with LSD and believed what he said when he said it was God's gift to young people. And I think that this man, Dr. Leary, I had hoped he would die. I had hoped he would be hung. Then I had hoped he'd stay in prison for life. And now I'm glad he's out as a pitiful example of an aging hippie, a gruesome spectacle of how drugs can ruin a brilliant mind, a third-rate comic in cheap nightclubs with a routine that evokes pity. I've seen it on TV, exploited like any ex-convict with a sensational past. And I predict and hope and pray that his next appearance in show business is where he belongs, in the sideshow of a circus, not as a barker, but as a freak inside.
Art, how do you know? You mentioned documentation. Which, by the way, do you want to respond? I've never seen a more withering blast in my life. You must respond to that.
Oh, I've had dozens of them.
But I mean, seriously. I mean, that would have been it for me.
Go on. What are you going to say?
How do you know that... What evidence do you have of the documentation that LSD was responsible for her death?
Well, it's an absolute fact. Her boyfriend, her brother, she talked to her brother several times before she died. She was getting flashbacks from LSD. She was not a drug addict. She was an experimenter like so many of the young kids who were believing. And mind you, I do not blame Dr. Leary for all of this. I think he was an important part of it. Such things as Grace Slick and the Jefferson Airplane and the rock group singing the songs of drugs. People who were like Ginsberg the poet, and even Aldous Huxley in his Doors of Perception was talking about the glories of drug abuse. It was a drug world, but Timothy Leary happened to be an intellectual, university-based guru and gave the youngsters a kind of a rallying point. They weren't just talking about hippies. They were talking about an intellectual leader and he, who was, by saying these things, was giving them an additional argument for experimentation in this tremendous time of the 60s.
All right, I have a few questions. I'd like to get it off Tim just for a little bit. All right, briefly, what do you say to parents? You've had this experience. You had 5 children. You have 4 now. If the parents are involved, if kids are involved in drugs, what do you say to parents? What should they do about it?
Don't panic. Don't beat up on the kid, physically or emotionally. Don't rush off and call the cops, but rather develop an attitude of listening and patience and understanding. The first thing every parent should do is to learn something about drugs and stop making it an emotional hot button.
Right.
And I want to tell you a study of teenage kids who do not use drugs or booze. And we're always studying the kids who do, but let's look at the kids who don't. 9 out of 10 of them are close to their parents. 9 out of 10 of them say that their parents check up on them, know what they're doing and who they're with. And 8 out of 10 say that religion is an important or moderately important to them.
Listen, Art, when are you coming to New York?
Probably in a couple of weeks.
Would you come on our show? We want you to be on the show. It's important. We have statistics that at least 1 million people every month are involved in. I don't know what they are, but they're alarming. If one is involved, it's too much.
Listen, I lecture.
I know you do.
And travel all over the country. In fact, I'll be in Chattanooga tonight speaking for Teen Challenge on the subject.
Come up here, will you? We're at WCBS in New York.
Love to be on your show.
Give my best to Jack. I went to Emerson Junior High School with your son, Jack Linkletter.
Good for you, Stan.
All right. Thanks very much. All right, Dr. Leary, look, we've sandbagged you to some extent. You are not... Are you all right?
Am I all right?
Yes. How many LSD trips have you taken?
Well, it's like how many times have we made love? You know?
Well, they say you've taken 600 LSD trips. Does that sound about right?
Could be.
Do you think you've lost any of your brain power? I'm seriously, do you think you've suffered any brain damage as a result of that?
Yeah, I think I'm one of the smartest people on the planet today. I'm writing 2 or 3 books a year.
Right.
I'm giving lectures. I'm very well received.
You're also being arrested,
I
aren't you?
That I must be stupid. I must be brain damaged to get sandbagged this way.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, but...
Were you sandbagged, for example, on August 30th, 1979? Here's the Los Angeles Times.
Yeah.
Can you see this? Leary and wife arrested on drug charge.
Uh-huh.
And there was the couple's 5-year-old son, who had been sleeping, was placed in the care of a family friend. Your son was there when you were arrested.
Yeah.
What were you taking?
But you didn't follow up on that there were no illegal drugs whatsoever.
But you were taking
no
drugs,
crime.
weren't you?
There was no, absolutely, we were making love in our bedroom when the police came through the window.
What kind of drugs were you taking, though?
Legal drugs.
What kind of drugs?
Yeah. Legal drugs.
What does that mean?
Drugs you get from a prescription.
Tell us one. Look in the camera. Tell us, what was the drug?
Are we on the camera now?
Yes, sir. Just focus on this camera.
See, here's the situation.
Go ahead.
Number one, this was a setup. The police came into our bedroom. Mm-hmm. There were no illegal drugs there. Before this happened, I'd been on television saying that we don't take any illegal drugs to feel better or to increase our intelligence or to, become better lovers, but we do take legal drugs. Now, on the basis of this statement, we take legal drugs, the police busted in and arrested us. So now, in public, I say we don't take any illegal drugs to feel better or to get smarter.
Why would you need it 59 years of age?
Or we don't take any
Tim, why
legal
would
drugs.
you need drugs anymore?
Well, that's none of your business.
No, it is my
business. There happen to be 60 million people in this country who like to smoke marijuana, and it's none of your business or the business of the government to be
Doesn't
harassing
society
us.
have the right to protect itself against people like you or against drug takers? Seriously.
Go back to Iran. You're an ayatollah. What do you want to do, cut the heads off people who drink beer because you don't want to?
All right.
You have absolutely no right interfering in the business of what goes on with 45 million
You're a
people
real
who
example of
smoke marijuana.
open-mindedness in this country. It's brought us, it's been a mixed bag, hasn't it?
I think that maybe 1 hour a year, someone like me comes along and challenges the Judeo-Christian ethic. My main function is to reduce guilt to reduce fear and to encourage people to thumb your nose at authority.
That's right.
Now, 1 hour a year I do this, and am I sandbagged and you're set up and you got Art Link? You can't let my voice go out for half an hour.
Back, excuse me, Doctor, a recovering drug addict from Odyssey House. See you after this time out.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to quit.
No, you're going to stay right here.
I have a lot of things to talk about the future.
Okay.
I told you
I want you to be on mic. Is he on mic here? There goes Dr. Leary. We'll talk to Fran Perry after this time out.
I didn't want to come here and talk about drugs.